Thanks, guys. It's awesome to be here. It's a very humbling experience to have the opportunity to speak in front of y'all. And ran the marathon a couple weeks ago, and I know that we've seen a few of us speak, and you're almost the last person, but I know it's hardest right before. It's not the last mile, it's like right before the last mile, so I'm going to try and amp the energy up. So this is probably more for me, so humor me, please. Let's all take a deep breath here. Let it out. Let's do one more. Let it out. Now one more. Close your eyes. And as you let it out, I want you guys to think of the happiest you've been ever in your life. Picture it vividly. The people you were with, what you were doing. Keep it in your mind for a second and think about, at that moment, what was going on in your head? What were you telling yourself? What was that voice in your head saying to you? Now, my story, or my stories, are about the things that we tell ourselves. Because as we get close to graduation, there are a lot of choices that we have. And I've spoken with a lot of people, and people kind of feel lost because this is a stepping away point. You know, you've had your undergrad, or you don't really have to know what you need to do in life. And right after your MBA is the moment where it's real. Like, you have to go out and you have to do something, and people are struggling with that choice. And at every juncture that you have, I found that there are three things that I tell myself that are helpful, and I'm going to share some stories about that. So the first one goes back to Cambodia. It was a few years ago. I had decided to go meet out some friends in Laos, and I had a couple of days I wanted to go and see Angkor Wat. One of my buddies said, the one thing you have to do is go do this dirt biking trek. And so I go to the dirt biking place, and I'm going on a one-day trek, and he's like, have you had any motorcycle experience? And like any good MBA, I had ridden a motorcycle once before, and I said, of course. This totally qualifies me to go and ride a motorcycle through mud and, you know, a dirt bike. And so he's like, okay, let's go try it out. So the first thing I do is I go and I rev it up, and he's like, and I tip over. And he's like, well, you need to put it in gear. And I'm like, yeah, that. So I put it in gear, and I managed to kind of swerve my way, and now I'm going. And so that seems to be good enough for him. And if I'm anything, I'm stubborn. And so I get out there, and I'm going to learn how to ride this motorcycle. And we start going 20 miles an hour. And we're going through this like rolling rice paddies through valleys. It's super lush. I mean, it's like if the Garden of Eden was conceived by Confucius. I mean, it's kind of what it would look like. You got these like blue skies, and like the interesting thing about it is like you can't get something like that in America because it's just not old enough. It's just like the age of it that kind of impresses upon you as you're riding. And so I'm riding, and it's just a great experience. And I start building up confidence. I start, you know, taking the turns a little bit sharper, and I start going faster until this one straightaway, I remember very distinctly, like, I decide I'm going to go 60 miles an hour and take this bike up to 60. And I did it. I get up to 60. I'm like, this is awesome. Right before I hit a pothole. And then I hit this pothole, and I remember the wheels in front kind of swerving. And then a second later, I wake up, and I'm 30 feet away from my bike. And at this point, you're like, well, you're screwed. You know, you're like in Cambodia in the middle of the countryside. If you have any serious injuries, you're totally toast. And that's what I'm telling myself. But by divine providence or whatever, I'm pretty much fine. And not only that, there's like these like Cambodian school children who come up and are surrounding me, and like this is the coolest thing they've ever seen. I've never seen a white person before, and now there's some like action movie stuntman like right in front of them. And you know what they do? They come, my guide, and they come and help me up. They kind of like carry me over into the back. They offer me like water and Coke and whatever kind of Cambodian snacks they have. And it was awesome. And I realized at that moment that like it's a universal human truth. Like I had done something that I probably shouldn't have done. I had just rashly gone out and gone on this motorcycle ride. I had no idea how to ride a motorcycle. I went up to 60 miles an hour like I shouldn't have done, and I crashed. And I could have been totally screwed. But it's universal human nature that people will come back and like pick you up. And that's something that every time I take a risk now, I tell myself that. Someone, no matter how badly I screw up, people are going to come and pick you up. So now I'm going to take you to Spain. I was traveling with a friend. This was right after college. I went on a 5-month trip around the world, ended up in Spain, and was doing the Eurail Pass, which is pretty much the best traveling experience ever invented by man, and it's awesome. And so I decided to go from Madrid to San Sebastian and spend, are there Latins in the crowd, by the way? So, you know, San Sebastian is like the highest concentration of Michelin-starred restaurants in the world. I was with my foodie friend. She's like, we're going to have a great day in San Sebastian, spend it eating, drinking, just having the time of our lives, and then we're going to go to Paris, which is my personal favorite city, kind of like, maybe like George. So we have an 11:45 train. We have a great day on the beach doing whatever, and we arrive at the train station with our bags, and it turns out the Eurail guide that I'd seen was wrong. It was a printed guide. It's not like European bureaucracy has ever made a mistake before, but now the train isn't there. And worse, we realize that the San Sebastian Film Festival is there. So not only are there no rooms, like everyone from across Europe, across the world, San Sebastian Film Festival, I think, I'm not really a filmmaker, but it's like the Cannes Film Festival. So everyone's there. And we go up and down the streets of San Sebastian at midnight for about an hour, trying to find a room, and I would literally beg. I remember going out the side of this one hostel and like begging in my crappy Spanish, like, please just let us sleep on the floor, and they're like, no, we can't, it's against the law. So we do what any young, irresponsible young 20-somethings would do, and we decided to go club the night away. Not an ideal experience, if you guys know me. This is not an ideal experience. So I make it till about 3 a.m., and it's a cold night, and we're at the club on the beach, and my friend Emily, she seems to be having a good time with the young Spanish gentleman, and I'm like, well, screw this. She hasn't forgiven me for this, by the way. So I'm like, all right, you know what? Here, we're gonna have to, find some place to sleep. Here, have my coat. That's chivalrous, right? And I leave, and I go outside, and I immediately regret it because it's like mid-40s, and I'm like, where the hell am I going to sleep? So I'm like freezing, slightly tipsy, like very tired, and I'm like looking for a place, and like there's this kind of sign out there that says P or whatever. I don't know if it's E estacionamiento or whatever in Spanish. You're gonna find my Spanish is very bad. So I go there, and it's this parking lot, and I go underneath the parking lot. It's like an underground parking lot. It's 20 degrees warmer. I'm like, perfect, here's where I'm going to sleep. It's not ideal, but I curl up next to a smart car, And that's kind of when you've hit rock bottom. You're sleeping next to a smart car in a parking lot in Spain. And sleeping on concrete is just like one of the most tormenting experiences you can do. It's ice cold, and concrete kind of like stabs you in places that you don't really know like you have, because you're laying there. The concrete was not meant to be bedding. I mean, it's just not found in nature. And so it's 3 a.m. and I know I have to wait till sunrise for like 3 or 3.5 hours, and I'm like literally feeling like every 10 minutes is like an eternity, and trying to get up, go back upstairs, and like see if the sun's up. And I know it's only like 3:10, but I don't have a watch, so I'm just like, whatever. And so finally it passes. I get up at like 6:30. I go find a coffee shop at 7, meet my friends at 8. And as we're walking that day, like all these all these fashion people are commenting and like being like, nice shirt, like it's an awesome shirt, and I'm like, what the hell are you guys talking about? I haven't showered in 2 days. I just slept on like the street last night. Like, what are you guys talking about? And after like the 4th time, I was like, Emily, is there something that's in front of my shirt? And she's like, no. And I turn around, and she's like, oh. It turns out that like I had this red shirt, and there's this like Joseph Albers kind of like square mosaic pattern that had gone like very modern art style, and all of the film fashionistas, all the film actors were like super impressed with this. And from that I take that no matter how bad the situation is, there's always a silver lining. You can always find So that's the second lesson. So I'll now take you back 2 years ago. I was feeling a bit lost myself, but knew I wanted to come to business school, wanted to do something in the trust and reputation space, and decided to go on the Camino de Santiago, which is a pilgrimage in Spain. You basically walk to Santiago, which is a pilgrimage site where the bones of St. James are buried. And I did this with one of my best friends, and we started at Irún, which is the northeast corner of Spain, and did the northern route, which is less popular, but it is far more beautiful from what I've seen, and it's just more solitary. It's a nice time to reflect. And The cool thing about it is that every day you have everything that you need on your back. It's completely the opposite of anything that we do in our daily lives. You have your clothes, you have your backpack, you have your water. You don't even have tents or anything because they're just like little pilgrimage hostels along the way. And you walk for 7 to 15 miles per day, starting at sunrise, and then by 2 you're done and you're exhausted. You have these meals, like these $10 meals with like 3 courses and wine. It's amazing. And you just have time to reflect in the afternoon. And we were doing that. And again, all that's on my back, you know, just Bible, books, towel, clothes. And so you don't even need a guidebook, because what's interesting about this is that there's yellow arrows and yellow shells that look a little bit like this. You're not going to be able to see it, it's black on black, but that are along the route guiding your way. And what's interesting is I remember getting lost 3 times. And I'm gonna make something that might be obvious to you, to the Latins out here, but I now believe that God is a middle-aged Spanish biker in hot pink bike shorts. And the Latins are like, obviously, but let me explain why to the rest of you guys. Because there were 3 instances where there wasn't a clear marking, and I'll tell you about one of them. We were walking out from this beach town, and again, like a beautiful vista overlooking the cliff, and there's this nice little overpass intersection that makes a little U-shape. And at a certain point on the road, you have a little fork up that goes towards like a pathy type thing, or you can keep going on the intersection. And me and my friend Rena, we like looked at each other, there's no yellow arrow, and we're like, well, what are we gonna do? And I was like, well, you know, we need to go on the path type thing, because this is obviously a walking track, so you should probably go on the thing that looks like a path. And so we started up, and right at that moment, this like guy like huffs up, and he's like, hola, and he's like, hola, and he's like, estáis caminando? I don't know if that's right, but he's like, are you guys on the Camino? I'm like, yeah. We're like, yeah, we're on the Camino. He's like, you can't go that way. And again, we're looking at this guy. He's got like, again, like hot pink bike shorts. It's like chest hairs coming out, you know. He's sweating, and he's like old, you know, and you're just like, well, okay, why not? He's like, well, if you go that way, you're going to be 3 miles out of your way, and you're still not going to be close to a town, which is pretty huge. If you think about walking 3 miles, you have to walk 3 miles, walk back, and then make it to the next town, which is only 3 or 4 miles that way. And I chose, again, this is one of those things where you might see as like a random coincidence. This happened 3 separate times, that a sweaty old Spanish biker had no business being there, because there's no one else there. It's just a very solitary kind of route. And the lesson that I learned is that you have to find God in the details, that it's just little things from day to day that you don't necessarily think can provide you direction, actually can provide you much needed direction. So that's about it. I mean, I think as we get close to graduation, a lot of us feel lost, a lot of us feel the need to like look to others, but these are the things that each moment you have a choice of what to tell yourself, and what you tell yourself really does influence how you see the world and the actions that you take. And so these are 3 things that I found personally helpful in making my own decisions, and hope they could be helpful to yours. So it's been a pleasure to be with you guys for the past 2 years. Thank you so much.